Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. أهلا وسهلا بكم مشاهدينا الكرام. Today we have a special episode about a program. A lot of people ask about it. It's called the Startup Visa Program. We brought you the experts and we will talk to them, we will ask them, and we will see how we will end up with it. Mr. Luai Al Ghul is going to address the questions. You know Mr. Luai, he's on the corner left top. We have Mr. Marshall Ring from MTA. We have Mr. Abid on the left corner left, and myself here from the Arab Immigrants, Samir Hamad, your host. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We are in front of different platforms in the Middle East, Africa, and we are reaching up to Malaysia. So, expect the questions from all these people. We have a question coming running now. He's saying Salam alaikum. He's greeting you. That's the first one.
Okay.
Imagine it. Salam alaikum, Nawaf. All right. So we will start with the first question, Mr. Luai. It's on the screen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Samir. Good morning, I guess, or good afternoon, everybody in Middle East and Africa and Asia and so on. Thanks for following us. As you can tell, today's show is in English, as we did in a few other shows when we have different hosts. So as we spoke about the SUV in the past, and I think last year as well this year, about the program itself, what's the requirements and so on, from the immigration side of points. From if you would come to me as an applicant through an incubator and you wanted some help with the later stages, what is to be expected and so on. But I think it's important for all of you to know as well, what is actually an SUV? How is it done? Who can be involved? What's the process of looking into when you're in an incubator? What is the process that you look at an applicant? Has it been successful in the past and so on? So we are honored today to host one of the pioneers companies in this field, the Manitoba Technology Accelerator. We have with us, as Mr. Samir said, the CEO, Mr. Marshall Ring, and the VP Middle East and Africa, Mr. Frieg. So without further ado, we're going to start some questions, and thank you for everybody for sending us your feedback. Marshall, good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Same here. We're looking forward to it. So just as a background of MTA, if you don't mind just telling us some background about MTA and when was SUV introduced to it.
So MTA is a private sector but not-for-profit organization. I have two goals that I commit to my board of directors. We are a business incubator, and I'll get into the SUV program in a moment, but as a business incubator, I have two commitments to my board of directors. Number one, we want to build more $100 million companies out of Winnipeg. And number two, I want to make Winnipeg the startup capital of Western Canada. So as a business incubator, we spend our days working with disruptive technology concepts, trying to translate those into functioning businesses, and then helping those businesses scale. The SUV program stands for Startup Visa Program. And that's one of our main areas of focus recently. MTA is what's called a designated entity by the Canadian government. So the Canadian government will invite business incubators to apply to be a designated entity within the Startup Visa Program. And if you're a designated entity, that means if you work with a client, you can issue the client a letter of support. And that letter of support would then be used by the client to gain permanent residence in Canada. So when I see the question on the bottom, what is SUV? So SUV is a Canadian government program intended to attract business people and entrepreneurs to Canada. The trade-off would be, we think that, so some folks might want to move to Canada. Maybe it's for cleaner air or stable government or They just like Ab so much they want to come be his neighbor. Whatever the reason, if you have an innovative idea that has the ability to scale and create jobs for Canadians, we can fast track you along your pathway to permanent residency. So the Startup Visa program is a Canadian government program, which designated entities can work with applicants in and help bring people to Canada to grow their innovative business.
Wonderful. So maybe just for our followers and our viewers to understand MTA role even outside of SUB, as a business incubator, as you indicated earlier. So can you share with us some one or two stories that you had in the past of people coming to you and then you guys helping them in growing their business?
Yeah, for sure. So actually, I think I saw a question flash up. When was MTA formed? I'll tell you a little bit about our origin story. So, as a good storyteller, I will say never let the facts get in the way of a good story. So I'm going to sort of change a couple of the facts in the story, but I think it helps inform why we were created and how we help people. So MTA was established in 2004. And as a not-for-profit, we have what are called founding members. We don't have, like, typically for-profit companies will have shareholders that own the company. A not-for-profit has founding members. So the founding members are the National Research Council of Canada and the province of Manitoba. And the reason that MTA was created was the National Research Council of Canada, they had an organization out of Winnipeg, and they found a way to move a 3 Tesla magnet such that it could be used in intraoperative surgeries. So someone is getting surgery on their brain, trying to remove a bit of a cancer. You don't want to take out too much of the brain, but at the same time, you don't want to leave any of the cancer in. So what they were able to do is figure out a way to take that magnet and move it in and out so that the surgeon could get real-time images and understand how the surgery was going. So that was a very technical issue that the physicists at the NRC were able to solve. So they tried to do the company around it, and the company started to fail. It didn't gain traction. And then a private sector individual came in and bought the company and started to run it with private sector management skills, whereas before it was being run by the NRC scientists. And so, there was a quick assessment done, and what had changed? The market hadn't changed. They were still looking to sell into intraoperative surgical hospitals. The technology didn't change, but management changed, and the way they went about commercializing the technology as a result. So the NRC in the province of Manitoba said, maybe there's a role for having people who understand the commercialization process to help the researchers along. And they said, let's form a business incubator that could help other technologies have access to skills with respect to commercialization. And then that company, by the way, went on to set a Canadian record, I believe, for a medical device IPO. So the company went on and did good things. That was our origin story. Probably our most famous client is a company called Skip the Dishes. And so they came to us with 2 employees, and then we helped provide space, management advice, a little bit of money, and we helped them scale to the point where they were sold for about $200 million. And
yes.
What's so great about that story is the jobs are still here in Winnipeg, and the 5 founders, they're all creating their second companies. One of the founders, actually in the fintech space, became Canada's fastest company to be worth $1 billion. So these success stories really fuel us and show that we can accomplish great things out of Winnipeg in the prairies, and that we have the talent here to do it. So that would be a little bit about how we started, and then a quick story about one of our successful clients.
Wonderful. So actually, MTA does provide services outside of the SUB to anybody, any business basically, who needs any training or I guess guidance to be successful.
Yeah, the program that we deliver at the SUV level is very similar to the program that we deliver within the clients that we have that aren't seeking permanent residency. So Ab's been a good CEO mentor for us for some of our MTA client companies that are in the commercialization business unit. And then Ab is also an advisor for us with the SUV clients. So we put a CEO mentor in for non-SUV clients, and we put an advisor in for SUV clients. And Ab, you can maybe speak to the similarities of the process and how we just try to work our clients through that same commercialization pathway.
Yes, thank you, Marshall. Yes, we work with the clients to basically help them translate the idea from a business idea to become a real business. So we work with them to improve the maturity of their product, whether it's on the marketing side. So we work on the marketing side, the technology development. We assist them with the technology development. Some products, the product business I'm working in as a CEO mentor, for instance, that requires licensing from Health Canada. So we work with that. We work with the entrepreneurs to achieve the Health Canada license, and then after that, with them getting the product to market, and so we assist them with the marketing side. So we have clients that come through the SUV program, and they come from different technology, different track. And so we have SUV advisors like myself and others can assist them, whether it's a medical device, whether it's engineering device, whether it's a nutrition supplement, all of the different developing an app to help with recruitment at universities and schools. So that's what we provide as an SUV advisors and CEO mentors. We take the ideas from idea stage to become a real business, and so that's what we do. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, because our clients who are watching, and mostly from overseas, they're very interested in coming to Canada to start their life here in Canada through different programs. And I keep telling there are over 51 immigration programs in Canada. So there's so many different ways. One of which is a successful one is the SUV. So in your opinion, who would be, when you have so many applicants coming to you, who would be the perfect candidate or applicant for an SUV in your organization?
Yeah, so I guess before I get into the perfect candidate, what I would say is one of the strengths about the SUV program compared to the other, say, 51 programs, is there is no age. You don't get scored by your age, and you don't get scored by your level of education. So I think sometimes, maybe a 55-year-old business person finds this program really convenient for them, as opposed to some of the other programs where, more geared towards younger immigrants. In terms of our perfect candidate, the criteria for the program, as set forth by the Canadian government, are that you need to have an innovative business and one that can create jobs for Canada and scale. We will deal with anybody. We can deal with people who are at the idea stage. So, hey, I've got an idea for a great business, all the way through to a company that has, revenue and employees. The perfect candidate for us would be someone who has a proven technology that's already in the market, maybe in the Middle East or the Gulf region, and wants to bring that innovative technology into Canada. Those ones are almost always approved. But that doesn't mean we do not work with people who have an innovative idea and want to come to Canada and build a prototype or build a minimum viable product offering and launch that business. Further, what we also see is, I'm talking about innovation a lot, but one of the stories I like to tell is, if you want to build a house, you might need a plumber and a carpenter. So the same thing is when you're building a technology startup, you probably don't have all the skill sets in one person. So we also find a great opportunity when there's a team where you have management support. So you might have, as our host would compliment, an electrical engineer, but then you might also have a finance person and a salesperson. So it looks like you have a good management bench strength that can help that company along. So the ideal candidates for us are those that have innovative ideas and relevant management skills.
So does the candidate have to have an existing business back home, or can they be someone with the skills and the experience?
Yeah, they do not have to have an existing business. The requirement is that when they do come to Canada, they incorporate a business here in Canada. But if someone's just, figured out something pretty cool in their basement or in their garage, and they've got a full-time job somewhere else, and they want to come launch that business in Canada, that's perfectly suitable for the program, and we have a lot of expertise in helping, as Ab did say, translate that idea into business.
Marshall and Ab, I've also met clients who came through the SUV program who came from a medical background. They, inventing a medical device or an instrument, for example. Can you tell us more about that, please?
Yeah, another great example, and that goes back to they might not, in that case, a lot of times the doctors or the medical professionals may not be able to invent or build the prototype, but they see there's a need, there's a market demand for it based on their own experiences. And then from that, they might hire an engineering firm to build the device. But again, that's where we see a great alignment with the management of the team. So someone's got a medical background, they've seen a gap in the market, they've hired someone who can help build the prototype. So that's a really solid example of a strong application.
Great. So when I'm visiting overseas, my offices are doing seminars, and someone raised their hands and said, I have a question about SUV. The first question they'll ask me is, when do I get my PR? And I tell them this is not you're not going to get your PR by getting your SUV. This is, as you said correctly, you're taking them halfway through to the PR process if they qualify to continue afterwards. So that first part of the process, the support letter and so on, in a very brief couple of minutes, can you let us know from your experience what is involved there?
Yeah, so I'll talk generally about the immigration process through the SUV program. If someone applies to us and we accept that someone, and then we issue them a contract. Once they sign the contract, we issue them what's called a letter of support. So we issue that to the client, and we also send a copy of it to the Government of Canada. So I'll use the word IRCC, and that's the government department we send it to. Once the client has the letter of support, that they can use to start, that's what they use to start their immigration process. You can choose to apply for a work permit at that point, which enables you to come to Canada. Or if clients want, they can stay back in their home country and just wait until they get PR so that there's more certainty. But we don't control the immigration timelines or the process. The Government of Canada, IRCC, does have that data up on their website about the length of time for PR. So we can control letter of support, and we can issue a letter of support usually within, if someone gives us a successful application, we can get it. One of our competitive advantages is speed. We can get that application reviewed within 21 business days by a third-party screening committee. Then we can issue a letter of support 5 days after if the client is accepted. So generally speaking, within 30 business days, a client who is accepted can have a letter of support to begin their immigration process.
That's correct, and that's right. That's one of the things that is very attractive about MTA compared to other incubators. Everybody's great, but you always look at when you're a client overseas, you always look at timeline. I'm very famous. Anybody who works with me is very famous of me doing a timeline with an arrow and breaking it down to sections, because people visualize it and then they don't start selling properties because they want to leave. I tell them, just hold on. This is a long time process. We're going to take some time. So absolutely, I think one of the strong advantages of MTA is the process time, how fast it becomes. Another question I'm asked, and I'll leave that entirely to you to answer or say it depends, is the fees, estimated fees usually in with your organization for an SUV applicant?
Yeah, I'm perfectly comfortable communicating that. And when we get responses, we'll always communicate this is our answer. The MTA program, we give one-to-one business advisory services. So as mentioned, Ab is a business advisor, subject matter expert, mostly in the ag space, but also has capacities in other sectors. So we work with clients for a period of 18 months. And we never used to have a defined time period because pre-COVID, people would get their PRs in about 16 to 18 months. And then it dragged out after COVID and they're still trying to catch up. So we said, well, it's not fair for us to keep someone until they get PR. So we think 18 months, that worked right for us previously. So we have an 18-month program. And within that, we charge every month for the program. Now the fee depends on the size of the team. If you're a one-person team, we charge $2,100 a month. And then for every person that's added to the team, we add another $500, and we also give more services. So it goes, one-person team is $2,100, a two-person team is $2,600, a three-person team $31, a four-person $36, a five is $41. And again, that's applied out over 18 months.
That's good. That's a very good point that you raised, because people might understand this incorrectly by thinking an SUV applicant is a one-person applicant, but actually an SUV application can include up to 5 people in the same application.
Yeah, and then going back to my analogy of building the house, we think it's powerful when you've got 2 or 3 people on that management team that bring different skill sets that can help that technology advance.
And just to from an immigration side, and anybody who watches me for the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, knows that every time I say anything on here, I say this is not a legal advice. This is just general information. Don't take it and build something on it. Call me if you need anything. But as a general information from my experience in this field, in this program, an SUV applicant, when we say, for example, an application with 3 people in it or 5 people in it, that doesn't mean only the person. So the person is allowed to come to Canada with his or her family. So it's an actual a family. Is when we say 1 or 2 or 5, we're talking about one family, and so on and so on.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So it could be, for instance, 5 people, and every applicant has 3 members of the family, 4 or 5 members. So it's So it's going to add to.
If you're from the Middle East, probably 8, 9 members.
Yeah. And I wanted to add also what Marshall was saying about the screening committee. Some of the things that differentiate MTA SUV program than others is that we have advisors. Myself is one of them, but we have some of the best business people in the province here in different, and not just in Manitoba, actually throughout Canada, that is specialized. They have expertise in the medical field, expertise in agriculture, expertise in engineering, expertise in medical devices, and so on. So those were the ones that they would be assigned if they get accepted in the program. The applicants get accepted in the program, they will be assigned to one of those. Advisors will be assigned to them. So that would be a great advantage of the MTA program, SUV program here in Manitoba, because we know the advisors are just top-notch business people. As well, Marshall mentioned about the screening committee. The screening committee is also made up of excellent business people in the province here that can assess the application based on its merits. And one of the things Marshall mentioned, when you have 5 people or 3 people or a number of people in the committee, we look at, sometimes I serve in the screening committee, and we look at, and I have some notes for one screening committee coming up. So we look at the application, the applicant's skill set. So they are matching a skill set that will match the business that they are looking to start here in Canada. So that becomes a factor to look at as well. If they don't have the skills, but they have the one of the abilities that Marshall said, maybe they're a plumber, but they need an electrician, right? So that's where MTA can come in as well. there's another arm of MTA, or associated with MTA, called Juno, that can provide services like that, can help people with the other aspects of the business that are maybe lacking themselves.
So just to again, I ask these questions from the years I've been asked these questions. So if we have an application, an SUV application with let's say five members on the team, and as Marshall and Ab said, they're a team to make something successful. So as you know, very great example they provided when you build a house and so on. So now can one of those members, their skill is that they are the financial contributor, and the other four are the technical and inventors and so on?
Yeah, you need to have an active role in the business. If your contribution is just writing a check to finance the business, I don't think that would qualify you to be part of the team running the business. So in that case, though, I think what would be a natural segue would be if it's the person writing the check, they might want to take on a position of writing budgets, managing budgets, making sure planned use of funds are going forward, and taking a role on that way. So again, not everybody has to be an engineer that builds something. You can have other roles within the business, but just passively writing a check and not being involved in the business would not meet MTA's criteria.
That's exactly right, and it's a perfect answer. And it doesn't. It used to be the case in Canada many years ago that there were immigration programs where you could invest 500,000, 800,000, 1.6 million, and after a few years you get the PR. That's not the case anymore. Most programs now require the investor to take active role, to actually be producing, to not to be in any passive position anymore. So this is a question, and I'm going to share it with you. The question is, how many successful applicants or around did MTA assist through the SUB process? And again, I'll leave the question to you.
Sure. So we've worked with over 750 files now. We currently have about 475 active clients. Wow. And everybody asks, well, what's our success rate? And it's hard to say what our success rate is, because if we have 475 active clients, like really, we've probably had about maybe 100 to 150 graduates. And then some of those graduates are still waiting for their PR process, because again, our program's 18 months, PR sometimes drifts into, well, it's longer than that. But we can speak to rejections, because when we get rejections, the client does come and ask us for, help, advice, and to prove the case. I think we've probably only had a handful of clients where IRCC said not the right fit, or it's being reviewed. But I of that 750, maybe a handful didn't have been rejected, and those are usually the clients that don't put in any work when they're in the program. And then, so when IRCC asks us, can we see, so we record activities monthly, and we have a fully auditable back-end process where we can show the efforts and initiatives that the clients are making. And if it says, well, the client never showed up for meetings and they didn't try to build their company for 6 months, those are ones that aren't going to go forward.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Can I kind of add to that about the success rate as well? Yes, some of the success or failure, I guess, of not getting through their work permit or PR, some of it, I've seen some are not related to their application. They're related to other things. Especially the PR side. As you know, I've been an immigration lawyer. There are many aspects that immigration would look at as opposed to just the application for the SUV program. So that's, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's very, very important point because who are listening to us, you need to know, as Masha said correctly in the beginning, the MTA can take you only so far in your immigration application, in your PR application, you take it to the part where they are responsible to help you in the business, support you with the letter, make sure you're committed. But there is the immigration part which continues after that. That is not in their hands or any. It's really within your immigration process and whether you as a candidate or your family as well as a candidate would be accepted or not for the PR process. But as far as coming to Canada, starting your business, doing the obligations that MTA has committed to, that's their role, and that's what they do at that point. I think a good computer would do. I met with Ab, as I said, for lunch. We had a wonderful time, and we are very excited to for anybody who are listening to us, our followers, our officers. We're very excited to. I think we'll be hosting them in coming seminars in the summer. So I hope Marshall can join us as well, and you'd see Egypt in different eyes in our Egypt office or Dubai office or Jordan office. I think you guys are gonna have a wonderful experience. I can speak about the people I meet there. Very highly qualified individuals, very high skills, very innovative candidates. Very good command of English language, as well as we have in those regions a lot of universities who are Canadian universities in Egypt and Dubai and so on, American universities. So the culture, the understanding of how to live in Canada, what is expected in Canada, is already established in many of those candidates. So it's very promising candidates. And what we're hoping to do in these seminars is we will actually, first of all, filter through our marketing the right candidates. So when they're attending the seminar, we are looking at the ones that seem to be the most likely to be good candidates, and then MTA can explain their role, see if there's a good fit, and hopefully we can help as many people as possible. Our goal as a law firm, immigration law firm, and I told you about my story. I came an immigrant myself. So our goal is to make sure that you don't fall in the mistakes that new immigrants come to Canada and ask the wrong advices, or it's very well known that our culture likes to help each other, so they give you as many advices as possible, and some completely irrelevant and leads you somewhere in the wrong direction. That's why lawyers will make a lot of good money, because we fix problems. So us in the beginning, come to Marshall and Ab and ask them what to do in the beginning, right? See if you're a good candidate, and then this way we avoid going in the wrong field. So I'm gonna end up unless you have. I don't want to take your time. I know you're very, very busy, both you guys. So I want to end up with maybe one question, a general question. I want to say, and Mr. Samir, if you could kindly please, in the bottom, put the contact information as well when you're rerunning this for MTA as well, if you don't mind, so that they can be reached directly. I want to ask a question: is what kind of advice you would give to those who are listening to us today and who are, they feel that they have an idea or a business or a concept that they can actually come in and benefit Canada and especially Manitoba with?
Yeah, I'd say the advice would be, reach out to us. We're happy to answer questions, help the process along. We've got a very defined application process. Most people can do it on their own. The one thing in terms of other sort of, I guess, advice I would say is, you mentioned it earlier, MTA does not help with immigration. We issue the letters. We encourage everybody to work with an immigration lawyer and immigration consultant. So I really echo your comments that, it's heartbreaking to us when we see people changing their entire life and then missing something because they're not skilled or experienced in immigration. So we do encourage the use of an immigration lawyer for that regards. And if there are questions, reach out to us. Yeah. Certainly, I know Ab's happy to talk with everybody.
Absolutely. And I wanted to say also in Arabic, وإنجليزي. So Marshall, I said in Arabic and English as well. So So if you anybody has any questions,
That's
we
great.
can assist them
That's great.
in other language other than English as well.
That's
Yeah.
right. So, Ab, actually, do you mind, Ab, if I talk about your cultural background? Is that okay?
Yes,
I like.
I was born in Alexandria, Egypt. Immigrated to Canada about 42 years ago, and I run
Yeah.
a large business here in the ag sector. I was the president CEO of a large ag company. Um, I work with at MTA with I'm a CEO mentor and I'm an advisor working with MTA, and I also teach at university and the colleges as well. So I've been here for a long time. My family is from here, and I go to Egypt once in a while. And every 2 or 3 years, we go and visit. I still have family there, and we would love to see people from the Middle East apply to the program, the SUV program. We have a lot of talented people. I know we have a lot of talented people that can will definitely be successful here with the help of advisors, the help of MTA, with all the MTA can offer. They will be very successful here, and they will have a very good life here as well. And a question maybe you didn't, it wasn't asked, which I know some of our clients asked the question. He said, "Well, I'm applying through MTA. Do I have to stay in Winnipeg?" And we said, we would love it if you stay in Winnipeg. I mean, Winnipeg is the center of Canada. It's a very affordable city and it has everything a big city has, but it's a smaller city. And great people's friend is called Friendly Manitoba. And so Manitoba, Winnipeg is great. However, people, and we have some of the SUV clients, people decide to, because of the family connection of some other family reunification with other members, do you want to go to Vancouver? They can go to Vancouver. They want to go to Toronto, go to Toronto. So Montreal and so on. So there's just there is misconception of some people. If I apply through Winnipeg incubator, then I'll stay in Winnipeg. I mean, we'd love it if you stay here, but you don't have to.
I have a question here.
Do you mind a quick comment, Walid?
Sorry.
I just want to say that Ab is correct. This is not a provincial program. This is not a provincial nominee program. This is a federal supported program. So you are allowed to, and you're welcome to go anywhere in Canada. Sorry, Walid, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's the same point. I was saying that does MTA work only for the people in Winnipeg, Manitoba, or it extends from Newfoundland to British Columbia?
So for the commercialization business unit, we're restricted to working with people from Manitoba. But for the SUV program, as Ab said, we'll work with anybody from anywhere in the world, and then that client can live anywhere in Canada. And our program is set up. We can do the program virtually or in person. So we'll for SUV, we don't care about geography.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm very honored to have both of you today, and
Right.
I really look forward to working in partnership with you in the Middle East. And I hope that Marshall, you can join us in Egypt and Jordan and Dubai.
Send us the dates.
Just let me know when. I'll be there.
Yeah, send us the dates. We plan.
It'll be tentatively in August. So this way, I was talking to Ab towards the end of August. We make sure everybody's coming from their holidays back to their countries, and they're reestablishing for schooling and everything.
Yep.
It's from a strategic point of view doing this. We will be marketing and advertising starting from May for this seminar. So we will screen the candidates that we believe would be benefiting from this, and also hopefully serious enough to not just come to the seminar, but follow up with MTA. And if they want to use our law firm, they are welcome to. I always say, because both Marshall and Ab are new to our Facebook page here and live, I always say in every show, I say this is not an advertising to my law firm, and I always say that please go see any law firm you want, any person you want. This is just information, not a legal advice, but this is just information about questions you ask me, so I can provide you with things that will avoid you from getting into trouble or guide you to the right path with getting the right experts and right, wonderful partners that you can come to and work with. So use any law firm you want. It doesn't matter to me, as long as you step on the right path and and try to avoid falling into troubles. And if you do, then call me, and we'll see what we can do.
Great. Samir, yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. Samir, I'm curious. We see a lot of questions come in the bottom.
Yeah.
Are these from people are listening, or
Yes.
who are the? Yeah, can you share maybe a
Yeah.
question maybe to for that
I'll
was
put
for
two
maybe?
questions because of the time.
Yeah.
This one is in Arabic. Mr. Lloyd can go ahead with it in English. This
So
is
it
a
says,
question, and this is it. You see, the question is here, starts with here.
sure.
Okay.
So this one says, I'm sure Ab can read that as well. It says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, meaning peace be upon you. It's a greeting in Arabic that mostly for Muslims, but everybody using it. He says, أنا استشاري مشاريع ناشئة. I am a consultant for startup operations. I provide services for younger, I guess, age group, and also for anybody who's starting new businesses. I have a few questions. Number one, so I didn't read the last one, Waleed, if you don't mind going
Yeah,
back.
I'm just putting things together to make the idea complete. Yeah.
Thank you. It says number one, there are lots of projects, especially in IT projects and in the specialized project, that the owners of which, and I'll wait for Waleed, the owners of which are looking for investing or growing new technology for agriculture. Would this be one of the things that MTA would consider? Basically, technology or innovative in agriculture. Number two,
Sounds like
what
a
is good? Sounds like perfect.
The answer is yes. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And the second part is what is the lowest amount of funds that is needed to establish a project, and what is the advantages that the applicant and the acceptable SUV applicant uh, can receive. And the last one, I'm sorry if I'm putting them all together. The last one is number three. Walid, sorry if you don't mind
Yeah,
going
he
back.
says, do you have offshore?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, what is the things that is needed to establish a corporation, and can we work in that corporation for somebody who is offshore? So the last one, I don't mind answering, but the first two, please, if you don't mind, guys, helping us with. So the first one,
the amount
agriculture.
of funds required. The Canadian government does have what's called settlement amounts.
Yeah.
So the applicant, depending, I think, on their family size, has to have sufficient settlement funds that they have to show as part of the application process. That has nothing to do with MTA's SUV program. With our SUV program, we would like the applicant to have enough capital that they can hit milestones in their business. So if someone wants to do $200,000 of building an ag tech, and it's going to cost them $200,000, and they have $10,000, it stands to me that might not be the most viable business. The idea might be good, but they would need some work to help capitalize that company to make it come to fruition. So the minimum funds required, there's the settlement funds required by the Canadian government, and from our end, it depends on your project. But we want to see that you have some capital to make progress while you're in the program. In terms of what advantages do the clients get or services, mostly that's the one-on-one time with the advisors and who are subject matter experts who can help the client move forward. So for example, in the ag tech space, Ab would be a good advisor. Ab also has a network. He can say, here's some market channels that we can start working with, or maybe here's, you might need this hole filled on your management team. Ab can go into his network of people he knows. So it's just landing into a spot where you're well connected and where you have a subject matter expert. As we spoke about, trying to immigrate. If you've never immigrated before, using a lawyer so you don't, have a step on a banana peel and have a slip and a fall. The same thing, if you're working with MTA, we help we know how to commercialize technologies, and we have our networks in place to help make it a little bit easier. And then I think you were going to comment on establishing a corporation.
Thank you. And I want to also add to what you said, Marshall, that you also provide the supporting letter, which is the gateway to Canada. If
Yeah.
you approve the
Of course, yeah. And so you get the letter of support, which starts your immigration process. Yeah.
of course.
Okay.
The last part is that yes, you can establish as a foreigner, you can establish a corporation in Canada. There is no restrictions on that. So before you come to Canada, before if you're in Egypt, for example, and you want to start a corporation in Canada, in anticipation of coming after you being approved as an applicant or in the process of being approved, and you say to me, I want to start a corporation, you can start a corporation. The only restrictions you have, so you can be 100% shareholder of the corporations if it's for profit. The only restriction you have or is that you have to have at least 1/3 of the directors as permanent residents or Canadian citizens, so that the government of Canada can follow up in terms of CRA and taxation requirements and so on with someone who is actually a Canadian resident or a permanent resident, or a citizen. That's the only restrictions. Other than that, you can actually, of course, establish it while you're outside, and you can also establish it when you have a work permit here in Canada.
Okay, I have another question. Okay, it's in English. I think all of you will. It's in two parts also.
Okay.
Okay, this is one part, and this is you get a commitment. I don't know why Facebook did cut it into two parts. Maybe it's because it's long.
10% more.
Do you mind? Will you just look at the first part? If you don't mind?
Yes, I will bring it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Startup visa have qualifying business. A qualifying business means you created a business that meets the following condition at the time you, and continues here, get a commitment from the designated organization. Each application holds 10% or more of the voting rights attached to the shares of the corporate, and that up to 5 people. We know this. And then he has a continuity here.
That's something low I can answer to, but yeah.
It's long, but
Yeah.
The requirement there is IRCC wants to know that combined, the applicants have, I'll call it, control of the company. So they want to have everybody. So the applicant needs to be holding 50% plus one of voting shares in the company. So that means, and then IRCC wants, if it's 5 people, they want each person to have at least 10%, and that comes back to a meaningful contribution.
Yeah.
In most cases, the applicants own 100% of the company, but I think IRCC is just trying to prevent someone from, for example, buying shares in Ford Motor Company and then saying, I'm going to come over here because I'm a shareholder in Ford Motor Company. So it's not really their business, right? There's a shareholder with such a minuscule amount. So the shareholder requirements are just ways to, again, make sure that the people that are applying are involved with the business.
Okay. And the question came in Arabic, as you see. After putting all that text in English, he came to say that, does it mean that if you have a project which is already standing, you have to have the liquid money, or it should be premises and other things?
Let me just maybe rephrase it because it's coming into parts. So the first part in English, just confirming what Marshall said, the business that you want to establish, you as whether 1 or 5, you need to own 51% of that business. You need to minimum 1%, which means that each one should own, if it's 51%, should own a minimum of 10%. But the reason why, again, as Marshall said, because the government is trying to prevent you doing a passive business. Passive business is a business where you put money in and you watch things done while you're not taking an active part of it. So the questions are very, I don't know why they're coming that way, but what he's saying here in Arabic, basically, does to bring in I guess I'll tell you why they're saying this question. In many of the business immigration programs, the government, whether the provincial government or the federal government, would require that you would have a certain net worth of $500,000 or $1 million to qualify to be a candidate for the business program. For example, the MP, the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program, BIS, Business Investment Stream, requires you to have a minimum of a net worth of at least $500,000. It doesn't have to be liquid. It could be in real estate. It could be in business value of your corporation. So this person is asking, if I have the money but not in a liquid form, can that be acceptable?
Yes.
Okay. So those two questions came regarding this startup visa program. And I hope that everybody who was watching with us for the last 50 minutes was patient enough to know all what is needed to be known about this program. And I'm sure you gave them what they needed to know.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've done more than that. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here and for taking your time throughout your day. It's a great benefit to the people who are listening and watching us to know that there are people who come to their companies, who can come to and who can mentor them, who can hold their ideas and make it into reality, like what happened with Skip the Dishes and so on, where actually many of our even our own clients who come in through the business programs, they'll come in to start a business. They make a business idea, a business plan, present it to the Immigration Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program or BC and so on, gets approved for that business. But when they come to Canada, it depends on where they are faced with the reality that this is not Dubai. This is a different market, different buying power, different interests, different locations. So now they need, they come to me and say, "Lawyer, what do I do?" I say, "Well, I'm a lawyer. I can tell you where to buy and where to lease. I can help you with the lease, but I can't tell you where to lease. You need to look at your own business." So having MTA or other incubators who can actually help you and guide you will be a very useful tool. 2,000, or I'm not advertising for MTA, but $2,000 a month. You probably pay that. You pay probably more than that for renting right now a house for your family. So think about the whole thing. See what you want to do. Plan your future well, and we provide you with the right people who you can speak with, and hopefully you can come to us with a successful story. Thanks again.
I didn't understand the question 75 availability.
The businessman for recovery too. I'm not sure.
I didn't know what does he mean.
Yeah.
75 availability of a businessman.
That's what happens if your English is not so good.
Is there any business for
Yeah, he continued with, is there any real estate business or hotels?
Unless there is technology to it, no.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think
taking your time.
I think you will continue on with the session after Marshall and I leave. So I wanted to thank you very much for allowing Marshall and myself to come and talk about the SEV program, and we look forward to future collaboration.
Thank you very much for being with us today. It's the 4th of May, 2023. And I have to mention this. Any information you heard about it today, there might be upgrade or change or anything tomorrow. So always look for the latest updates for all the information. It's up to this moment of this day.
None of the information you've heard are legal advices. So don't understand.
We have to make a disclaimer. It's not legal advices. It's information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us today.
I can't help myself by saying, may the 4th be with you. All right. See you guys.
Thank you very much.
Abu Omar, we will continue the program after they leave. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al, very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.